95.3 WBCK now presents Coach's Corner, live from Lakeview Ford. For over 6 decades, this has been your number one source for all local sports information. Coach's Corner is proudly presented by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now, here's your host, Bill Broderick.
Yeah, this is Bill Broderick of the Battle Creek Enquirer here in the big chair once again on Coach's Corner, coming to you from downtown on the Motor Mile at Lakeview Ford. For more than 6 decades, Coach's Corner has been talking to the city high school football coaches about the week in high school football. And we'll do just that with our first coach of the morning in a few minutes. But first, we'll have our Lakeview Ford Coach's Corner scoreboard. In action last night, we had a couple of games in the city. We had Penfield trying to stop the Hastings train. Hastings was on its way to another conference championship in Interstate 8, and Penfield couldn't slow that down. And Hastings beat Penfield 38-3. That's the 4th straight Interstate 8 conference title for Hastings, which finished 6-2. Penfield, which was 0-9 last year, finishes 4-4, and a nice building block of a season as they go forward. Lakeview was also at home. They found themselves in a shootout as the final score shows. Lakeview beat Kalamazoo Central 56-47. Lakeview had a huge lead there in the fourth quarter, and then Kalamazoo Central came back late to make that a little bit closer than the score indicates. Battle Creek Central went on the road to Lake Michigan area, and they fell 55-12. And and also in the city, St. Phil is going to be playing tonight at CWO Post Field. St. Phil is going to be playing Bangor, a 7 p.m. game tonight. So all those St. Phil fans can get out there for that. In other games in the area, Climax Scots went undefeated on the season as they knocked off number 10 Pittsford 38-30. Jackson Northwest beat Marshall 36-6. Gull Lake got bowl eligible as they beat Olivet 42-7. In 8-player football, Bellevue beat Litchfield 68-0. Also in 8-player, Concord knocked off Athens 76-0, and Buchanan beat Union City 34-0. When we come back, we'll be talking to Harbor Creek coach Mason Converse about the big game for the Beavers as they play in a high school football showcase game against Jackson Lumen Christi at Ford Field later today. I talked to Coach Converse during the week at practice, as he's probably already on the bus this morning, so he's not going to be down here live with us at Lakeview Ford. He'll be heading to Detroit. We'll have that conversation next after this break on WBCK.
Coach's Corner on 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
Coach Mason Converse of the Harbor Creek Beavers. They're getting ready as we speak to play at Ford Field against Jackson Lumen Christi. We're talking to Coach Converse during the week at Harbor Creek Stadium. And it's a huge game for the Beavers. It's a big game for the kids in terms of experience to play at Ford Field, and I'm sure that's something you guys have talked about all week. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, good morning, Bill. And it is a great opportunity for our kids and possibly a once-in-a-lifetime chance for many of our kids. And not sure how many of them have ever been to even a Lions game or at Ford Field. So just to be in a facility like this is something I want them to be able to soak it in and enjoy the experience for sure.
Preparation for this kind of thing, there's a lot of extra things you have to do during this week. How's that gone this week?
It's amazing how many extra things there are to do. And by the way, there's a football game going on as well, and we're playing a pretty good opponent in Lumen Christi.
Which sounds like the band, the cheerleaders, the pom squad, the football team, and maybe a couple extra kids on the football team, and all the other, and the family and friends of all the team are going to be there. So it'll be a great day for Harbor Creek, and that's something I imagine that was the expectation when you guys chose to play in this game. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. To have a chance to play against a quality program like Lumen Christi and get us prepared for playoffs, that was the number one priority, because it is week 9 and we knew it would be. Our hope was that we would be a playoff team. we felt pretty confident about that, and it's worked out to be that way. And so playoff football is one and done if you don't take care of business. And there's no better way to prepare for playoffs than playing a quality opponent like Lumen Christi. We know they're going to be hard-nosed and physical, and it's a tremendous opportunity. And then you throw in the fact that we get to play at Ford Field on that stage in front of our fans. It's kind of gives you tingles thinking about it.
Are you going to have that Hoosiers kind of moment where you're going to bring the boys out and tell them the field is still only 100 yards long and the field goal posts are all the same, so their eyes don't get too big in terms of being on Ford Field?
We've thought about that a little bit. I don't have a 300-foot long tape measure. I've had a couple people offer those to me. We're going to be pretty packed with activities and events going on beforehand, but we are getting there a little bit early so they can kind of take it all in, soak it all in, and then we'll remind them it's a football game. And once the pads start cracking a little bit, I believe that everybody will settle in, and we'll remember that it's a football game and that we're there to have fun, but also compete like crazy to get our 7th win.
Lumen Christi is a team that's used to playing at Ford Field. They've been in the state finals at Ford Field 4 times in the last 6-7 years, and it has to be an advantage for them. But the other advantage that you guys have is that you always play Lumen Christi tough. You're one of the teams that have played them tough, so you guys both have some advantages going into this game. Talk about Lumen Christi and the challenge that is for you guys.
I mean, Lumen Christi is one of the top programs in the state over the past 40 to 50 years. Their number of state championships speak for themselves, and we have tremendous respect for that program and for Coach Brogan and what they've done. And at the same time, both sides we're both tremendous competitors, and I think that's one of the things that has set us apart from maybe other teams that have played Lumen Christi in the past is we respect the heck out of them, but we certainly don't fear them, and we play them tough. We want to play our best games against them, and we want to rise up and play the best teams to measure ourselves. And ultimately, we want to be at Ford Field someday. That's our goal, is to get there to play for a state championship. So if you want to get there, you got to be able to beat the best. And I know Lumen Christi is a Division 7 team, but they could qualify for the state finals most any year in multiple divisions. And so we want to play. We want to play those quality opponents. And over the last 7 years, we are 3-4 against them, so that's about as even as it could get. And we played them tight last year in the first half. Our kids know that, and we beat them in 21 when they were ranked number 1 in the state. And so our kids know that, and we'll have confidence going into the game.
As we're talking today, it's midweek, and health-wise, you guys feel pretty good about going into this week. You guys were on a roll last couple of weeks and have played some pretty good ball on both sides of the ball. How are things going for the Beavers right now?
We're as healthy as you can be this time of year. It's the end of the season, right? So you get excited because we have an additional week. We know that we get to play football for at least one more week. It's something we got to make sure we don't take for granted, because football is one of those sports you don't play very often once you graduate from high school, and or ever once you graduate from high school. It's definitely a finite thing, whereas other sports you can have pickup leagues and things like that, and you can play in adult leagues and things like that. But most of the time with football, for most of our young men, this is it for them in high school. And so to get the chance to play with this team for at least one more week is special, and we want to make sure we kind of soak that all in and enjoy the moment.
It should be an exciting week for the Beavers playing at Ford Field. We'll have all the coverage in the BroderickEnquirer.com as we go through it, and good luck for you guys playing Lumen Christi, a tough team and a great opponent heading into the playoffs. It should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Bill.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
Hey, this is Bill Broderick, the Battle Creek Enquirer, down here at Coach's Corner on WBCK. We're here with our next coach of the morning, Lakeview coach Brett Vernon. How's it going, Coach?
Going good.
Going good, yeah. Lakeview ended on a happy note last night. They played in a crazy scoring game. They beat Kalamazoo Central 56-47. That gives Lakeview 3 straight wins to end the season, which is great momentum for them after the Spartans opened the year at 0-6. So the program is going in the right direction at the right time, and had to be a lot of fun as the scoreboard kind of got busy last night. Is that right?
I would say it was fun until about 5 minutes left in the game, when we put in our twos, and shame on me maybe for trying to still run an offense, throw the ball with my twos, and through that pick six, and then things started to cascade a little bit, and they started to be able to come back a little bit, and got a little nervous there towards the end. But that first 3.5 quarters were great. I thought we played really well, came out playing hard, playing fast, and they did a good job.
Yeah, you talked about how early in the fourth quarter you were up 4 scores, so not too much of a threat at that point, but like you said, some a cascade of miscues of how you kind of told me last night, and that idea of making the game a little bit closer than it should have been. But for the most part, you guys, the offense was clicking. The defense has shut them down a little bit. Both those things hadn't happened a lot simultaneously for you all year. So having both sides of the ball kind of working at the same time, that had to be great to see. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we were really balanced. I think we threw for 160, 70 yards. Jake and Zach both ran for 133 yards. I mean, we offensively, not having it rain, got to have that pass game back involved, and it seemed like we were clicking. Anything that we wanted to do, we were kind of doing it.
Yeah, Zach Harchek was the WBCK player of the game last night. That was the WBCK game of the week. So congrats to Zach for that. But the scoring was kind of spread out all over the place. Both Jake and Zach each scored twice on offense there for you. And Zach added a touchdown and an interception return. Davis Barr got in the action with a touchdown, and Spencer Shotwell added a touchdown as well. And like you said, a balanced scoring effort all the way around. And that's what you want to see going forward. And you wanted to see coming in your passing game working well, but then you know that the running game has to work well to make the passing game work. Earlier in the season, that was a work in progress. You feel like last night you took some steps, and that kind of gives you some momentum for next year. Is that how you look at it?
Well, yeah, we're going to be losing those big three there, Barr and the Kaharchek twins, and so we got work to do with the guys that got to step up and fill in. But winning 3 games at the end is great. Hopefully that gives us some motivation in the off season. It's simple, and we'll probably talk about this next week. But we got to get stronger. And that's our biggest direction that we got to get to. And hopefully it gives these kids the want and the excitement to get in that weight room throughout the off season and be ready to go for next season. Yeah,
losing those skill guys, that's a huge chunk for you going forward. But what you do have on your side is that it's a first year in the program for you, coming from Homer, and those skill guys are already there, and they were going to do their thing. But the guys that are kind of behind them and the other guys on the field, you wanted them to kind of learn the system and get them going. And how has that gone for you? Do you feel, in terms of getting a leg up for next year, do you feel like you're in a good spot for that, or do you still feel like you have some work to do there?
I feel 1,000 times better than what we did at the beginning of the year. We're just able to, get some more stuff towards the end of the year. Just because, just learning our basic formations. That was a struggle getting our guys aligned correctly. Started getting that, down pat around week 3, week 4, getting kids where they needed to be, that alignment assignment stuff. I feel real good about going into next year because the kids have that year underneath their belt a little bit, and we can kind of progress a little bit as we go forward.
Before we get to next year, we'll talk a little bit more about last night's game. What was really clicking for you in terms of specifically on offense early in the game, where you guys are kind of looked like you guys are scoring at will early against the Kalamazoo Central defense, and a lot of big plays, I'm sure, as you guys has leaned on that during the year. And is there a certain part of your offense that was kind of working well against, and something that you saw against Kalamazoo Central that was working for you?
So they wanted to take away the run. They came in, they were kind of stacking the box a little bit, and so loosened up. Davis Barr took, a couple of screen passes, a couple short passes, and just ran hard after he got that ball, some yards after contact. And you could kind of see as it went through the game, it just kind of loosened that defense up a little bit. And then we just, started able to run a ball 5, 6, 7 yards a pop, and got a couple of explosive plays out of there as well. Got to give credit to Zach Rogers, our first drive of the game. He caught a ball down the sideline on a 3rd and long that he got rocked on the sideline, held on to it. That helped us up score that first drive. So that was just a great effort on his part. And then even the rest of the wide receiver crew. Catching the ball when they had those opportunities. Gavin Deal had a couple big 3rd down catches out in the flats, and everything was kind of just working for us offensively.
The Kalamazoo Central, the big challenge usually is Kalamazoo Central is a big team. They're a big team. They have some big boys, and so to make that work, to give yourselves a chance, you have to have some good play on the on the line of scrimmage. Talk about a little bit some of the guys on the offensive line that helped you out there last night a little bit.
Yeah, so we unfortunately we were down one offensive tackle. So Brody Miller came in. He's a backup guy for us, but came in. He did a great job for us. And then Ben Perry's been a cornerstone for us all year at the center position, doing a great job, not just offensive line, defensive line wise, flying around, having a great motor. And then Ian Klein has just kind of been that steady influence for us. He's a 2-year starter for us out at tackle. Did a great job there. And a youngster, Carlos Suarez, he's a sophomore, came up, wasn't really expecting a ton out of him, and he might have become one of our best linemen, if not our best lineman at guard. And then Aiden Carudi, he did, he stepped in, first year starter for us there, and did a great job up front too.
Sounds like you have some pieces going forward, which is always what you want to see. Winning 3 in a row to end the year kind of takes the bad taste out of your mouth from that early start. And these seniors were able to walk off the field last night with their heads held high, and that's so important for the seniors that they have to kind of look around and realize what they have there. And high school football is such a special thing for a lot of kids, and those senior years and those final games are something that they want to remember. So going out with a win is great for the Spartans, and winning 3 in a row gives it guys some momentum for next year, which we said before, which is awesome. And congrats on that. And we'll talk a little bit next week about next year and wrap up this year a little bit. So thanks, Coach, for coming down.
Thank you,
sir.
We'll
be back with our next Coach of the Morning here on WBCK.
Coach's Corner on 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick of the Battle Creek Enquirer here at Coach's Corner. We're here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Mark Bassetti of the St. Phil Fighting Tigers. How's it going, Coach?
Good, Bill. How are you?
We're doing well. St. Phil is playing tonight under the lights at CW Post Field. Big final game of the regular season on a Saturday night against Bangor. 7 o'clock start, so all you Tiger fans can get down there and watch them one more time for the end of the season game. Bangor 4-4. They're coming in and they're playing you guys. You guys are 3-5 currently, and Bangor took it on the chin last week to drop to 4-4. They lost 54-6 to Maple Valley, but the 4 wins is the most for the Vikings program since they went 4-5 in 2015. They've had 5 winless seasons in that span, but they seem to be turning things around at the right time, and you guys are going to have your hands full a little bit because you guys are still down a couple of people, and it's going to be tough to get ready for that. But the Tigers are ready to play tonight and out for the challenge to play Bangor. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got, we'll be dressing our 10 kids tonight. Everybody's back and everybody's here, so we should be set and ready to go. Bangor's a lot like us. Not number-wise, but talent-wise. They've got some solid talent, and there's things that we're going to have to take care of that they do well. And if we do that, we're going to be in a good position. So,
with your huge team of 10 players, down from maybe 13 to start the season, so you're not exaggerating when you get to 10. But the key players that you do have are key players, are skill position players, and players that can make big plays for you. That's what you kind of have to lean on a little bit at times to get bust those open plays, and when they're there, and keep the chains moving when they're not there. How important is that for you guys?
Well, we've got to move the ball. And we don't really move it in big chunks. And that's one of the things that we've talked all year long. We get 4 or 5 yards a run, we're happy. We're happy. It's not like we've got somebody that's just going to, run a sub 10, 100-yard dash or a sub 1,100-meter dash. We don't have that kind of speed. But as long as we can just methodically move the ball, we're fine. And our kids have been doing a good job with that. Even against the better teams that we played, against Climax and against Mendon. We were good at just running basic plays and getting 4 or 5 yards a pop. And that's what we need to do tonight, and you hope you break one here and there and get a 20-yard gain. But as long as we can stay within ourselves and get positive yardage every play, we'll be in good shape, and then hopefully, things change a little bit there defensively, and we know we can throw the football. I mean, we've got a quarterback that can throw the football, and we've got receivers. I was looking through the stats. Every game that we actually threw the football, and Colt's thrown for over 200 yards in those games. The games that we didn't throw the ball, he's had some games with not a lot of passing yards, but we didn't throw the football. We didn't have to, like against Burr Oak and some of the other schools, against Teconcha. But the games where we actually threw the football, he throws for over 200 yards, 200, sometimes 300 yards. So we know we can throw the football, but we want to be able to control the football and run the football. And hopefully that's what we'll be able to do tonight.
So it looks like that might be the game plan tonight a little bit, throwing the ball a little bit. Bangor, like you said, has some athletes on their side of the ball, so you might not be able to just grind it out here and there. And throwing the ball a little bit to keep the chains moving there and getting those 10 or 15-yard passes, and then maybe go over the top every once in a while will be huge. But what does Bangor do specifically that you guys are kind of looking out for to make sure slow them down?
Their quarterback, he's got a little bit of speed, and he's shifty. And, they'll run a lot of read option with him. So we've got to keep him under control. If we can do that, it's like with offensively and defensively, it's all up front. If our defensive line can get off blocks, we don't play head up. We try to get the gaps and use our quickness, what quickness we have, get into the gaps, and if they can get off their blocks or beat those blocks, then we'll be in good shape. We spent a lot of time this week with them, again, still working with their hands how to, to get off of blocks and get rid of kids. And if they can do that, and it's the same way offensively, if we can control their kids, their defensive line comes off the ball pretty good. So, we've got to be quick up front and be able to get solid contact into them and drive them. Is both sides of the ball. If we can play well on the line on both sides of the ball, we'll be in real good shape.
You don't have very many seniors on the roster, so every game is important for you in terms of building this program going forward. And so another night of football playing in Week 9 is huge. You probably fall short of going to the playoffs, although you never know what happens in 8-player football. But getting that another night of a game, that extra week of experience tonight, is big for you guys. Talk about that a little bit in terms of the young players on your team. Every time they play, they can get that a little bit better. So that's what you want to do, and that's what you want to kind of see as a coach, right?
Well, yeah, we had to struggle this year at the start. Because we had so many kids that have never played a varsity football game. Getting them just ready to play. We won our first game, but then we come back the next week with 2 days of practice because we had to play on Wednesday. And, there was just no way. It's my job to get them ready. And we did the best we could, but in 2 days, we just couldn't get ready to play. It was a solid physical team. But as the season's gone on, these younger kids they're starting to get it. We've got 2 freshmen that we're playing that they're good, solid kids, but things move a little faster than it does in junior high. As you progress up, everything gets faster, and they're starting to get more instinctual. They're reading things better and getting to them. We had one of our freshmen last week. It was a real good learning experience for him against Mendon. How did you feel after game? Boy, was I sore. Well, yeah, he got bounced around like a pinball out there. But it's coming with them. It's coming with them. And, we've got some other kids that it's still their first year of varsity football, even though they might not be freshmen. And it's getting better. You can see it in the film every week, and you see it in practice every week, that they're starting to understand more and more. So
hopefully you can use that momentum maybe from tonight, get a win over Bangor, and that'd be a great way for those boys to end the regular season and walk off the field at CW Post Field with some excitement about the year that they had in high school football, and be excited for next week. And we'll talk about next week's game during Coach's Corner next week, and that'll be an exciting time, and maybe we'll talk about a Tiger win.
Let's hope so.
All right. We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning here on WBCK after this.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick of the Battlefield Enquirer here with our next Coach of the Morning on Coach's Corner on WBCK. Hey, Coach, this is Lauren Granger of Battle Creek Central Bearcats. How's it going, Coach?
Good morning.
Battle Creek Central went on the road last night, took the long trip to St. Joe, and they fell short 55-12. The Bearcats banged up, bruised, and battered all season long, and that kind of came to a head last night. Your 4-year starter at quarterback, Devoy Newton, couldn't play again after trying to play last week. A handful of other starters not playing. You're playing a lot of freshmen and sophomores as you have to look at the roster and kind of introduce yourself to some of the guys as they go on the field, because you haven't talked to them for a while probably, and only seen them practice a couple times. But those are the challenges you guys have faced late in this year as the injuries have mounted, and that kind of is what happened last night as St. Joe jumped out 28-0, and you guys really couldn't come back with the kind of roster that you have, but you thought you guys played hard late. Is that right?
Yeah, we played. The kids played hard. They're youthful, not a lot of experience out there on the field last night. And one thing actually that really put us in a bind early was the wind was blowing like 50 miles an hour, and unfortunately they won the toss and deferred their choice. So we obviously chose to take the ball, but that meant they got to choose which way they were going to kick it.
All right.
So they kicked it with the wind, of course. So right to start the game, they kick it through the end zone. We're on the 20, wind in our face, 50 mile an hour wind in our face, and we have a freshman starting at quarterback. So, obviously we try to establish the run. St. Joe's got a pretty good defense, so before you know it, actually one of the issues was our quarterback had a hard time handling one of the snaps, and we lost 10 yards. And so now it's, 3rd and long.
Right.
And we're trying to throw into a 50 mile an hour wind and then trying to punt into it.
With a backup punter. So.
Actually, it's not even a backup punter. It's a lineman. It's a guard, Juan Romero, who on Thursday said, "Coach, I think I might be able to punt," because who would have been punting, Dave Priest Andrews, who really is, I think, our 4th string punter anyway. His grandma, on Monday they got a call that his grandma was passing away in Milwaukee. And so his family left to go say goodbye to grandma, but that meant we didn't have a punter. He also, Dave Priest probably would have started at corner and maybe even quarterback. He's a senior. He's not a full-time quarterback guy, obviously, because Devoyne's our guy usually, but he's always practiced quarterback and been available if we need it. But anyway, Juan stepped up and said, "I think I can punt." Well, we put him in for that first punt, and he kicked the ball pretty hard, but with the wind the way it was, it pretty much went straight up in the air and dropped 8 yards from the line of scrimmage, but then he comes off the field and he says, "Coach, I can't do that anymore. My hamstring is killing me." and so Brooke, our athletic trainer, checks him out, and his hamstring's all bruised. And so now we really don't have a punter, except we had worked with the freshman Greg Williams on lining up like you're going to run an offensive play and then just quick kicking it. And so that's what we ended up having to do for the rest of the game. But my point with that whole story is we spent the entire first quarter with our back to our own end zone because of the wind and the inexperience that we had. We really couldn't muster a first down. We had trouble handling the snap a few times, and then, in any passing situation, we were throwing against a 50 mile an hour wind. So just really tough to get out of our own territory. And St. Joe's first, 4 touchdowns, they drove, 20, 30 yards to get them. Yeah. So defense had their back against the wall because of that. Kids played hard, but the circumstances just allowed St. Joe a lot of opportunity. And that's how the first quarter went. And by then, the end of it was 28-0 already. And so those are situations, that to our kids' credit, the thing of it is like you, as a coach, you're like, well, geez, how am I going to motivate my kids to keep playing when they're down 28-0 in the first quarter? And I didn't feel like I had to. Our kids have been through so much adversity already this year that it was like, oh, it's 28-0. So what? We're still going to keep playing, I had a couple kids that were frustrated within themselves for not executing, I had a kid that caught a pass and then when he got hit, he fumbled it and he's mad at himself. But I didn't have to deal with the usual stuff on the sideline that you have to deal with when you're getting beat like that, where kids just don't want to play anymore. Our kids wanted to play. They've been through so much that what they were going through right then didn't really faze them that much. And we had a lot of young guys that really stepped up and got a lot of experience last night. Greg Williams started the game at quarterback as a freshman, but R.J. Gray came in, who's a JV quarterback. He's a sophomore, and he really threw some nice passes when he had the wind to his back. And actually, in the fourth quarter, he threw one against the wind that was a beautiful pass. Elijah Pointer, who's a senior wide receiver who hasn't had a lot of catches this year, made a great catch on the 1 yard line. We were hoping he was in the end zone, but he was just short. It was a fantastic catch, and so some guys stepped up and made plays despite the circumstance they were in. And, a couple other guys that were stepping in. Corey Wells and started on the offensive line last night. There were some JV games he didn't even start in, so to start on a varsity game was a big opportunity for him, and he stepped up and played pretty well. We have some usual guys that played really well last night. John Contreras and Callie Bay, they just juniors continued to give us everything they had throughout the entire season, no matter what. And they did that last night too. Kamari Williams is a sophomore who started on the offensive line all year. But again, young. So I look at our team and obviously there's a lot you want to forget about an 0-9 season, but I look at our team and I see all the youth, all the guys that are going to come back, and I just think we'll be okay. We have a solid, number-wise, we have a solid freshman class with some pretty talented athletes, especially up front on the offensive line. And when you have an offensive line that you can work with, you can usually make some things happen. And so, plus my middle school team just finished their season undefeated. So there's a fair number of 8th graders coming in. I don't know, they'll be varsity ready next year, but the future is bright for Bearcat football. This season has been obviously one of frustration and surprise, really, if I'm being honest. I mean, nobody in our circle would have expected we would be 0-9 this year, but we had a lot of pieces that ended up being missing this year, and but I do think we have a lot to look forward to, and I'm proud of our seniors, the ones who remained. I'm proud of the ones who remained and really played their hearts out for their last time playing on a high school football field. And I love those kids. I hope they feel like I gave them everything I had, from a coaching perspective, because man, so many of them just whatever you need, coach. I'll go play. Marlon Jones, for example. He's a slot receiver that in week 2, when we were down so many offensive linemen, he's like, what, coach, let me play guard. Mm-hmm. It's a slot receiver, starting guard against Harper Creek, and that's the kind of kids they are. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough of them. Yep. And some of the really good players in their class ended up injured early, and it really just kind of hurt the dynamic of the team. So, but hey, I think
So we'll talk. That aspect of it, having a lot of young kids, and is great for going next year, and the momentum for next year. You're going to have a huge summer, I imagine, is what you're hoping for, and that's going to be big for you guys to bounce back from that. But it's happened before. You've had young teams that this has happened to, and then you guys have used that experience for those young kids to come back and play well the next year. So we've seen that with Battle Creek Central before, and we can maybe see that again. But we'll talk more about the entire season in its entirety and what we can look forward to next week when we talk to you again next week. So thanks for coming down, Coach, and we'll do that. We'll be back. We'll talk a little bit about Penfield's game last night and look forward to the playoffs for a couple area teams as we come back after this break on WBCK.
On 95.3 WBCK, proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
Hey, this is Bill Broderick of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back on Coach's Corner. Penfield coach Robbie Hatton couldn't make it this morning, but Penfield played in Interstate 8 game last night against league leader Hastings. Hastings beat Penfield 38-3 at Penfield last night. It's the fourth straight title for Hastings as they went 6-0 in the league and 7-2 overall. Penfield was coming back from an 0-9 season a year ago, and they were hoping to turn things around under Robbie Hatton, his first year with the program, and they got to 4-4. He talked last night about how that is a huge building block for them. They winning 4 games this year after going 0-9 last year in a game which included Hastings beat them 61-7, showing the improvement of being competitive with Hastings last night is huge for this program. And the idea that they can use this as a building block. And when he said something last night was kind of cool. He said, they look back at this season, and when they're on the top of the mountains, how he said it, they can look back at this year and say this was the year that they started things. And then the seniors on this team gave it them all, and sometimes the seniors won't do that when a new coach comes in. They won't buy in, but these seniors did buy in for Penfield, and they helped set the foundation for what the Penfield could be in the future. So if the Panthers are able to turn things around in the years to come, it's going to be built on this year that went 4-4, some seniors that won't be playing on those teams, and that's going to be huge for them. So Penfield finished 4-4. They're probably not going to they finished 4-5. They won 4 games. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. We do have some other teams that are going to make the playoffs, most likely, and Harper Creek being one of them, that head into Ford Field. Win or lose against Jackson Lemon Christie, finishing 7-2 or 6-3. My crystal ball in the Battle Creek Enquirer prognostication this week in the paper, we talk about how they're probably going to go west. And as the MHSA sets things up for Selection Sunday and lets everyone know who's going to be playing in the playoffs, they group these teams in 4-team quads and find out who they're going to play. And the most logical thing for them, Harper Creek's going to probably go west. St. Joe, Stevensville Lakeshore, with Gull Lake winning last night, they get to 6-3. They're probably going to be included in that group. As the computer points kind of set up, that probably means Harper Creek could play Lakeshore, possibly Gull Lake, depending on how some other things fall. Lakeshore is a good matchup for the Beavers. They'll be on the road for them, so we'll look forward to doing that. We'll talk a little bit more about the playoffs. We'll find out how Harper Creek does against Lemon Christie, and we'll do all that next week as we do another week at Coach's Corner. So this is Bill Broderick finishing up Coach's Corner for this week on WBCK.